Welcome to the Agape Network Success Discussions. I'm Tiffany Renee with TK Coaching. Get in the game.
And I'm Tiffany Domina, CEO of Mandatory Success Visions.
And I'm Kendra T, CEO of Blue Lotus Consulting.
We are so happy for you all to watch this video and join us tonight. And what we're going to be talking about is self-image. What do you believe about yourself? And I'm going to start off by giving a little background on my self-image and an experience that I had when I was very, very young. I believe I was young as 4 years old, and I was on the playground, doing my thing, having fun, just enjoying life and playing dodgeball. And I was the person throwing the ball. And so I threw the ball and I hit this little boy. And his reaction to me was, "You're black," and I'm not going to say what he said at the end. But, he said it with such force, like he said it really hard. And so, up to that moment, I mean, it hadn't dawned on me that I was black. But, not like in a negative way. And so, it hurt my feelings. So I went home and I was telling my mom about it, like, this little boy called me black. And she was like, "Well, you are black." I was like, "But he said it like, like it was a bad thing." And so, from then, I started hearing it more and more and more from other people who would say it to me as if it was something to be ashamed of, as if I could change my skin color. So what it caused me to do was be very conscious of my skin and comparing to other women. And so, moving a little further, I would hear things like, "Well, she's pretty to be a dark girl." So I felt like my skin color for a long time, I felt like my skin color was, something bad. Until I got in high school, and then I discovered that I was a brick house stallion. Which I did myself. And when I got to high school, and in my freshman year, I think I started, it was either freshman or sophomore year, that I was listening to EVE, and she made that comment in her song. And so I decided that I was going to take on that persona, because I never thought I didn't think I was bad looking, but I just felt like everybody paid attention to my skin color. And so it caused me to compare myself to other girls my age. And when people would say, "She's pretty," it was always a caveat with it. Like, in other words, because I was dark, I couldn't be pretty. And so for a long time, I carried that around. And it does. And it still, sometimes I have to think about it, I have to overcome it consecutively, because even yesterday I was running and walking. I wasn't running. I was walking. I was walking in my neighborhood, and I often don't, I haven't really done that ever. I've done it a couple of times, but at night. I shouldn't say ever. I've done it at night. So I was walking in the neighborhood, and I stayed around majority Hispanic people, but there are a few Caucasians as well, but it's not many African Americans. So this lady literally rolled around the block to come back around to stop me and say, she said, this is her exact words, "You are very pretty to be so dark." This just happened yesterday. And so, and she's an older woman or whatever, my first initial thing was, what I thought in my head was, she was coming to ask me, who are you and why are you in our neighborhood, because there's not that many of African Americans in our neighborhood. That was my first perception. But then after that, when she said that to me, it just took me back to being 4 years old. Like, "Really, lady? You drove all the way around the block to come back to tell me that?" Which I really don't think that was it. But anyway, so I was on the phone with a friend at the time, and I asked, "Did you hear that?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "That is so funny to me that we'd be talking about self-image and that somebody would actually come and, say that just in the same time frame, which I'm much better now. So it didn't take me by surprise, but I think because my perception was more so that she was coming to question me about who I was, because obviously I'm an unfamiliar face because I'm not often in the neighborhood. But it did teach me that sometimes your perceptions could be wrong. People could be looking at you or thinking something else about you, but what do you think about yourself? I was very friendly with her or whatever, and I didn't get offended because I no longer hold on to that. But it's just for someone else who may not have overcome that same stigma, it could have been, damaging to my self-image if
Mhm.
I had allowed it to. So, but some of the ways I've overcome that is that I tell myself, I look at all the positive things that I've done despite, I'm not going to say despite my color because there's nothing wrong with my color, but I always think about other things opposed to just looking at my complexion. So that's my story.
um, I was going to tell mine. I'm really impressed that she did that. Like, but I've been on both sides of the fence where I've been in environments where like racism was prevalent, and at that time I never questioned why do I look like this. It never really changed my self-image aside from I tried to be accepting of what other people thought. And so sometimes you can accept worse treatment than you should receive, just because you are trying to be accepting of what other people think. It never seemed to actually affect my thoughts about myself, but what did affect my thoughts about myself are how my parents raised us, and me and my brother and my sister, how they raised us, and their value for our time, their interest in our talents and stuff like that, their investment in like our education and different activities that we did. Originally, those things are what affected my self-image. And then as I got older, it became about physical beauty, affected my self image, because once I hit high school, it was like, physical beauty is what got you popularity and different things like that. So then all of those things affected my self image, and now um, I I try to ground. This is something that I consciously put effort into every day. That's why I say I try. But I repeat to myself what God thinks about me. And so at this point, I I I intentionally disconnect my self-image um, from my physical beauty and from what other people think about me, and focus my attention on what God thinks about me.
Awesome.
Well, my story happened pretty much in middle school, where my self image. I guess I had a lot of people saying, "Oh, well, you're not that cute, you're not that pretty. Oh, you can sing, but you're not that pretty enough to do this, or not pretty enough to do that." And that's something that I've heard over the years, which trickled into, yeah, I was part of the BHS community right along with Tiffany with
Hello.
the House Stallion. But I think that some of that negative talk, during that time kind of trickled. And so while I didn't think that I was unattractive or ugly or by any means any of those things, it trickled more for me to being anxiety. I didn't think that I could sing as good as someone else. I didn't think that I could speak as well as others. Um, spoke, because I just constantly heard that over and over and over again throughout that period. Middle school was very interesting, and so over the years, I have and continue to suppress past those fears and anxieties, because at some point I try to inhibit what I can do, my own abilities. Yeah, I'm a singer, that's what I do. I'm a speaker. I speak all day long, as like today. I think I've talked for about 10 hours straight today at work. And so trying to constantly remind myself, just like you said, Tiffany, who God has told me that I am, what I know that I am here to do, my purpose here within this earth, and then also just ensuring that I perfect my craft. So if singing is my craft, then I need to practice. If speaking is my craft, then I need to be in the mirror talking to myself and using all of those experiences that I've had in the past, just kind of stepping stones to continue to propel me to where I am today and where I'm trying to go.
Awesome. I think that in doing the research and studying about self-image, it is so detrimental to, well, not detrimental, it's so essential to your success or your lack thereof. What you say about yourself and how you believe yourself, it doesn't matter what other, in my case, yes, those people were saying those things, and for a while I bought into that. So it became um, it became something that consciously came up in my head when I was approached, even by guys. If I was in a group of women and it was someone there who was fair skinned or whatever, and the guy came and talked to me, my mind would literally go there like, well, am I the prettiest one, or why is he coming to talk to me? Like it made me think of those things about myself, all because of somebody else's projection upon me. And so we have that so much in, like Tiffany was saying, sometimes your family can help to shape your self-image, authority figures like teachers, preachers, um, anybody who you see that's in the authority, society. Today, the media. I watched a video just yesterday about this girl who she didn't say anything. All she did was show her picture on Facebook, on social media. She had no makeup on. And the comments that people actually wrote about this woman were just, it was just amazing to me. Like, okay, I put the picture up. You don't have to comment. You don't have to say anything, but these people were saying things that were not nice. And then once she went through a transformation after she showed herself without makeup, she put makeup on, and the comments then became, "Oh, you're so beautiful." But before it was like, "You're ugly, you look sick, you're disgusting, you have acne." They were just saying all of these negative things for someone they don't know. And how do you think that makes someone else feel when you spew those words out of your, or even type those words to someone? And then she went back and did put makeup on, and all of a sudden it was like, "Oh, you're so beautiful," like you're flawless, And so people, we listen to the media, we listen to our parents, and sometimes that programming can either uplift or damage your self-image based on what is said, and sometimes based on the person who said it. So sometimes parents do it, and it's not even necessarily something that they're trying to do. They can give you something negative, and they're not trying to. Like if you drop something and your mother says, "Oh, you're so clumsy, you're always dropping something." And so now, every time you pick up something, your mind is going to, "I'm going to drop this." You know what I mean? So that their parent, I'm sure most of the times their parent is not trying to instill that in you as a poor self-image. It's just, but it just goes back to how powerful the tongue is, and also how powerful our thoughts are. Tiffany, can you give us some of those statistics that we were talking about? Do you remember some of the statistics that we were talking about earlier in the week that you found?
Yeah. Not exactly statistics, but I can say that I was studying about how self-image is affected by sex and how like how sex is valued in a household, like how your parents treated it, whether or not they kept it between mom and dad, or if you had like if your mom was in several relationships or your dad was in several relationships or however that goes, but you start to like display what you see. And if your mom is kind of like if she had a poor self-image, or if she didn't think that she was valuable, or whatever that is, a lot of times the kids go and imitate that same behavior. And so I was studying the different mentalities that people have even to choose their occupation, like the mentality of the prostitute, and how her body, she feels like it's okay to go and sell my body. And even the documentary that I was watching, they were saying $20 for a blowjob and $30 to lay. And I just was like it's a certain mentality that has to go along with putting yourself at that type of risk, and allowing that type of vulnerability to your spirit, because here you are attaching yourself to another spirit, even if you say it's a client and it's going to be temporary and all that stuff. It really affects your self-image at the end of the day, because it you've now it usually goes from like the woman is saying, oh, I'm worth all of this, and then she goes out and sees that the man only want to pay $20. So then it changes the way she feels about herself, you know.
Mhm.
And when I was watching some of the prostitutes, because I was trying to get an understanding of how of the mentality or the self-image that would go along with somebody who was in an occupation like that. When I was watching them, some of them said that their dad said they would never be anything, that their teachers told them they would never be anything. And then the Bible says that faith comes from hearing. So if you hear these same things over and over again, what it tells us in the Bible is that we're supposed to be hearing the word of God. So faith comes from hearing the word of God. But if you're hearing things that are opposite of what God says, it also has an integral effect on who you feel like you are. So you have to outweigh like you have to outweigh it. You have to outweigh the good and change that with like positive affirmations and different things like that.
I like what you said about saying the things that are true, because oftentimes the self-image, even though it may not even necessarily be something that is true that you've bought into, but because that's the way
Right.
you believe, then that's the way you conduct yourself. And I was I was listening to some of Zig Ziglar's talks, and he was talking about how, and it's not just him, but they give examples. It's been examples and examples of people who function way below their privilege because someone told them you couldn't do this, you can't do this,
Mhm.
and then somebody else may come along, take the time and say, oh, well, you can do that and you are good at this, and then they show them how to do it, and then
Mhm.
and that person, the same person, the only thing that has changed is now you have experience, or somebody has shown you what to do, but the person is still the
Right.
same. And so then they can, start begin to do or function in what area it may be, or even just the mindset of thinking of yourself. It made me think about when I was teaching and how you could tell the difference between those children whose parents were active in their lives and whose parents spoke positive to them, and the ones who didn't. Early in the morning, I would have students come in frowning, angry, because, and then when you meet the parents, you see why, because they've gotten cussed out the whole day, and you little mother, or get in here, everything is
Mhm.
screaming, and it's like, how do you expect a child to have a positive self-image if all you do is talk negative to them? And
Mhm.
those parents who were there consistently with PTAs, those children typically produced and functioned at a higher level than those students whose parents were not. And so,
Mhm.
um, all of those things, play a big part in your self-image, because how you see yourself will initially show up in your life in all aspects.
Right.
You know, Kendra, you're kind of quiet over there.
I'm not quiet. I told y'all to soak it in. But I do agree with all of both my T and T, as I call you ladies.
So I think that,
And I was reading an article that was
Hello.
hello.
it talked about self-image, and we're people who, um, negative speak. Can you guys still hear me?
You're breaking up.
Uh, okay. I'm experiencing technical difficulties right now.
No, now you sound good.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So, in the article that I was reading earlier today, it spoke of people who had adopted just that whole negative sense um, of their own self, their negative self-image, and it talked about pride. Because we think of people who have like a really high sense of self, they're very prideful. Like they're the type that will boast and brag about um, things that things that they do, and they're looking at themselves in a certain manner. And it compared it to people who constantly live in a world of chaos, where that what we consider a negative self-image is also a form of pride, because some people utilize that in a way where they want to adopt that title of having low self-esteem or negative self-image only to draw people to feel sorry for them, give them things, or just appear that they're more vulnerable than they really are. So I thought that was an interesting way of looking at it, because I've never looked at it from that perspective, that there are two sides of having pride, where we think all the time it's someone that's boasting and someone that's really loud and everything that's going on with them. Never really thinking about those who just have utilized having low self-esteem as a place where they just try to suck life out of other people.
Right. And I think that, well, I agree with that, and that is a different way to look at it. I had never thought about it in that sense, either, Kendra. But I did read about those people who sometimes portray to be um, conceited, or, uh, as we would say, prideful, or a lot of times those people have low self-image because they're trying to
Right.
project that to people so that they don't really get to see what's behind the mask. And so it's, like, the class clown is always talking about someone else or joking about somebody else, all because they don't want you to really look and see who they really are, or who they perceive themselves to really be. So, excuse me. So, it was interesting to read how significant self-image is, or how important it is to us to have a positive self-image, especially if you're matriculating. You should have it anyway about yourself, period, because just like Tiffany was saying, uh, reminding yourself of those things that you are, uh, the child of God. You are the king in the kingdom. You are, um, fearfully and wonderfully made. And so, even though we have all of these things in the media who may be telling us that we're supposed to look this certain way and that, you're supposed to be a size this based on these things, the biggest thing is accepting who you are and loving yourself for who you are, because you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and because you are the kingdom, you are a king in the kingdom, and because you are the child of the Most High God. Then anything else that goes against that really is not the truth. It's really,
Mhm.
it really is not the truth. And one of the things that I took away from it was, um, I'm really, because I was because I taught in elementary school, and because I'm just a teacher, period, I have a big sense of parent-children relationships. And so I know that we are groomed and we emulate what we see, like you were saying, Tiffany, even with sex, but that's in anything. Everything that most of the things that we're taught at home. Even some of the things that
Mhm.
we're not taught, like your mom may not have said, this is how you do something, but you watched her do this. And because you watched her do this and you saw her do that, you pick it up. It becomes a part of who you are. It becomes a part of your image. And one of the biggest things that I took away from this is the importance of the things that we say to one another, to especially to our children, because or just to anybody, but mainly when you've been entrusted with a child and that's your responsibility is to mold them, then being careful with the things that you say, because it does have a lasting impression on them for life. And then when you become older and you have to undo all of that stuff that you were taught or that somebody said to you, it just kind of, it takes a lot more for us to overcome it than it does when you're small and you're a sponge. You're taking all of those things in. So, just moving forward, one of the things I think we talked about it is some of the action steps, I guess, would be definitely to start speaking those things that you are and speaking those truths. And like Tiffany said, speaking those truths which are the word of God. If you don't know those, we can give you some scriptures definitely to,
Yeah.
or some, like Tiffany said, some positive affirmations. Um, and then another thing I think we all talked about is not comparing ourselves to anyone else, because you are unique by yourself. There is no other Tiffany Domina on the planet. There will never be one. You are the only, the authentic and the only copy made. There's not another Kendra T, and so there's no one else that you really can compare yourself to, because you're the only one. You know, you are the prototype. You are it. There is no, the factory is not making any more. You know, in which I think that is so wonderful because it makes you unique, and then it takes away that when you understand it, that you don't have to compare yourself um, to anyone else. And I have some more, but I would like you guys to add in if you would.
I want to give two scriptures and two action steps. So the two scriptures, one of them is from, and you almost got it, sister, but it was Psalms 139, and I'm starting from verse 13, and it says, "For you created my inmost being; you knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you. When I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. How precious to me are your thoughts, God. How vast is the sum of them. Were I to count them, they would outnumber the grains of sand. When I awake, I am still with you." So I mentioned that one because it's a great positive affirmation. It's a biblical affirmation, even better. So it's saying how God thinks of us, and how he thought of us even before we were formed in our mother's womb, and how he thought about like our features and everything that would come along with us. So when people say like that's something that we like the way we look at ourselves or the way our body is formed or something like that, maybe whatever handicap other people may perceive, God put it there for a substantial reason. And part of that, like I've seen there's a pastor, I can't remember his last name, it starts with a V, but his first name is Nick, and he has no limbs. And he used to think that he was handicapped because he had no limbs. But then as he started to go out and as he started to understand his assignment for like God's assignment for him, then he understood that the fact that he had no limbs was actually to his advantage, because his story was just so much more powerful, because people thought, well, he's capable of doing all this with no limbs, then I'm capable of doing.
Right.
So he was able to inspire and empower so many people because of what other people would have considered a disadvantage. And so I think that like we have to I think that a lot of times we look at the way we were created, even with the gender identity crisis, how some people think, well, I was created to be a boy, but I'm in a girl's body and all these things. God didn't ask us to do anything with our physical being or to change it. It's part of our assignment. And that's all the meaning that it has. It's a physical body. You have a spirit inside of there, and your spirit is the beautiful part. And so God told us, it was like, I think it's in Titus, but don't quote me on this, but the Bible talks about how women are supposed to adorn themselves, not with physical beauty, but in character. And so it's the spirit inside that has the real beauty, because the physical part is all temporary. It's just part of our assignment. It just says something about what we're supposed to do. I'm in a female's body, not that my spirit is female, because we have no gender in spirit, but I'm in a female's body because I'm here on assignment to do certain things, and God thought that I would be better suited in a female's body, African American with curly hair. um, and if anybody thinks that something about the body that he assigned me is not beautiful or whatever, then they can seek him about it, because this is what he gave me. And I can maximize my purpose in this. This is like, you know, I feel powerful because of that, and because of the scripture and how it says that he formed me and he shaped me this way, and he had all the reason to shape me this way. And then when you go to Galatians chapter 6, and it says in verse 4, it says, each one should test their own actions, then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing themselves to someone else. For each one should carry their own load. So with that, we know that, like, instead of me looking at what Kendra's doing and saying, well, man, I should be doing more, or what Tiffany's doing and saying, dang, she leaving me behind, I should be doing more, I should be looking at what I did before and exceeding what I did before. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like maybe last year, I got my bachelor's. This year, I can do more. And so that should be how I base my progress on my own, based on my own, like capabilities. So that's another thing that I know damages self-image when we look to the right or to the left and we're comparing ourselves against somebody else. But when we compare ourselves with ourselves, that's where Paul is saying that we should be. And then my last action step, aside from the first one, is the first one was the scripture and the biblical affirmations, but the second one is to get wisdom. And I think that when you seek wisdom, then you find truth, and the truth sets you free. So once you keep seeking wisdom, you learn more and more about your capabilities. You learn more and more about what's possible for you on the earth, and you learn more and more about why you are the way you are and different things like that. Wisdom is valuable also. So when you're down and out, and you think that all you can do is, like I gave the example before of the prostitution and somebody thinking that all they're capable of is to sell their body. When they get wisdom, then they learn of their capabilities, and they learn things that would make them more marketable in the world, because it says that wisdom is worth more than rubies. So those are my two things.
Awesome. Well,
Awesome.
I want to add, because I did have the same scriptures, Tiffany. So a lot of the stuff that you said, oh, I'm like, oh, I want to say that too. So that's perfect. We definitely have to remember.
Sorry. Hopefully I told you okay.
No, it's all good. Just that, as we're talking about self-image, just think about, we are made in the image of God. Just go back all the way back to Genesis 1, around about the 26 chapters, 26 verse.
Exactly. That's it.
Um,
You got that.
so remembering that we are made in the very image of God, and then talking about, just as Tiffany stated, Psalms 139, and looking at the words, we're fearfully made. We're made in His image. We're God's. We're His children. We're His possessions. And just realizing that these aren't things that someone did for us. These aren't things that someone made for us. This is God's doing.
Mhm.
He gave us our bodies, just as you said, Tiffany. He gave us our bodies. He gave us this vessel to walk the earth and do what He's called us to do. And so we definitely want to ensure that, I guess my tips is to rehearse who you are to yourself. You know that you're made in God's image. You know that you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and make that your mantra as you're going through your day-to-day life. Reminding yourself of how important you are to God, how important you are to your family, how important you are to yourself. Remembering that as well. And then let's see, what was my other point. My other point was that I am a writer. So I like to write. That's kind of one of the things that I do. I like to do a lot of stuff. But one thing that's really helped me over the years is that I write down the things that I like about myself, that I appreciate about myself, the things that I have accomplished for the day. And that's kind of how I wind my day down, is just to take inventory of those things. Because you'll be surprised where a lot of times we think, oh, I didn't do too much, or I had these bad thoughts, or we have them. We're human. We have those things, but I kind of rehearsed to myself. Let's write down some affirmations about what I think of myself. What did I accomplish today? What good did I do for someone else today? And that, for me, it has really helped me to kind of hone into who am I? What am I here for? Am I fulfilling the purpose that I know that God has placed me on the earth to do? And everything that Tiffany said. Yes, include that.
So I'm so glad that even though we are, each individuals, we all came. It just shows how God unifies things, because the very thing that, the very words that I was saying, those were the scriptures that you all took out. And then the very tips that I wrote down were the exact same things that you all talked about. Even so far as, like Kendra was saying, I said take inventory of one of the things I would like for you all to do is to take inventory of the things that you tell yourself, because sometimes we don't even notice that we have a positive or a negative self-image. So as you write down those things that are good, just pay attention to the thoughts that you're going through on a day-to-day basis, and see if there are some things that come up that are negative, and there will be, because you're, like Kendra said, you're human. But excuse me, what you want to do is constantly replace those things with truth. And just like these wonderful young ladies have said, is that the truth shall set you free. And it really, really, really does, because when you really know who you are, and that no one else can project to you who you are, and when you really believe these things about yourself, it does set you free, because it lifts a weight off you. It I don't know about you guys, but it really does lift a weight when you feel like, you know what? I don't even have to get offended or mad, at this. Like the lady, I could have got mad at her, you know, for saying what she said or whatever, but I laugh because I don't have to take on that. I don't have to
Mm.
hold on to that and be offended and be mad for what? You know, so the truth really does set you free because it just takes a weight off you. And so as we move on and we're going towards this journey called life, and as you begin to really truly function in your purpose, I just know that your self image has to become stronger and stronger and stronger. And so if you do those things that we've talked about here today, we just know that you'll be in a better place. And and you just love yourself like you should, like Kendra Thing said, which I really love that. If you would just love yourself, because God, like Kendra said, God, you were created in His image. So, are there
Can I,
anything else?
yes, I wanted to give a closing story.
Okay.
I want to give us a example, explanation slash story. um, and it's from when I was in the military. And so basically, the way that they give you your assignments is it comes from, the leaders up in Washington, D.C. They'll say, well, we need this many soldiers in order to accomplish this mission. And so like I'm in Texas and they say, well, we need this many security guards, but we don't have that many people that have actually went to training for security. So what they do is they'll send me the training that I need. They'll send me the uniforms that I need. They'll send me the everything that I need in order to go over and fulfill the mission successfully. And I mention that story because God has also done the same thing for us. And here on earth is a temporary assignment for us. And He sent us here with the gender that we need, with the hair color that we need, with the facial features that we need, with the economic status that we need, everything that we need to get through life, with the story, the testimony that we need, everything that we need to be successful with the assignment that He gave us. And it's our responsibility to take those things that He gave us, that He sent us here with, the talents, everything, the associations, the connections, all that stuff, and give Him back a high return on His investment. That's our responsibility. So we take those things, we hone in on the skills, but it's not our responsibility to say, God, why'd you pack this bag? Why I got curly hair? Why couldn't I have straight hair? Because all of that was a part of the assignment. When I would get my orders, and what I didn't always understand it all, but they knew what needed to happen in order for them to have the successful mission and for us still to be the world power. And God knows the same thing. He knows exactly what you need in order to have a successful mission, in order to make the integral change in the earth, in order to change people's hearts, everything. It's just our responsibility to give Him a high return.
That was beautiful. That was really awesome. And so I think we'll close out with that. And the only thing that I want to say is another way to build your self-image is to always build someone else up. So as you see those great things in yourself, look for great attributes in someone else and give people a compliment. Tell them thank you. Tell them you did an awesome job because people want to hear that. And you just think about it when somebody gives you that, how it makes you feel. We know that the more we give, the more we get. And so if you give people compliments and appreciation, then it comes back to you, and then your self-worth, your self-image will also increase. So, it's been TNT and Kendra T with the Agape Network Success Discussions. We hope that what was said here today helped you and will catapult you to the next level. Until next time. Good night.
Good night.